Welcome to this week's dose of Emuna for Shabbat Kodesh, the power of affection. Where does the idea of affection come into play with Shabbat? So we learn, Chazal teach us, that affection is very closely related to the idea of Kedusha, of holiness. The idea of holiness, Kedusha, really relates to the idea of separateness. Separateness meaning we separate in order to become together. The idea of being able to connect is Kedusha, but not just connect. It's to separate in order to be able to remove that which comes in between two people or two things so that there's absolute connection between them. So Kedusha really, the bottom line, is related to the idea of togetherness, fully united, with no distractions and no interferences. And that essentially is what affection is. So affection and Kedusha basically go hand in hand. What is the idea? What's the sole purpose of Kedusha? And how is it related to Shabbat? Kedusha means that we are in a state, in the ideal situation, where it's very clear to us that the natural world is only a means to be able to achieve closeness to Hashem. Where we see Hashem so clearly, there's no disturbances, there's nothing else in the world. We can sense Hashem's presence, there's nothing there standing in between us. The world is so refined, so to speak, that the perception of mankind on the existence of Hashem is very clear and there's nothing hiding. That is the idea of Kedusha. That is the idea of having a relationship based on affection, on love, on closeness to Hashem. What is Tuma? Tuma, which is the opposite of Kedusha, the opposite of affection. Tuma is disconnection. Impurity is a disconnect. It's when body and soul are distant, they're apart. But what we understand is that in order to reach a place of Kedusha, you have to go through a period of, so to speak, Tuma. You have to ride through Tuma in order to get to Kedusha. Because the beginning of closeness is separation. The beginning of all closeness, all unity, is a separation. Removing that which comes in between, all the falsehood, all the illusions, removing and taking away all of that so that there's an absolute, genuine connection between the two. Essentially, when you want to stick two things together, two surfaces, you want them to stick together, they both have to be surgically sterile surfaces. No dirt, no gook, no nothing. So we have to prepare ourselves for Kedusha, prepare ourselves for affection, prepare ourselves for closeness through the process of removing distractions and creating a space where real intimacy can reside. What does this all have to do with Shabbat? Shabbat is me'ein olam haba. Shabbat is essentially the microcosm of what the real world is and will ultimately be like for everyone to see. And that's why Shabbat is the source of Kedusha. Because Shabbat reveals this. Shabbat is the day where we get to sink in to a world that is completely one with its creator, where there's no distraction, and because there are no distractions, we get to sense the affectionate relationship between us and Hashem. We've gone through the 6 days of the Tuma. We've gone through the 6 days of disconnection, of distance, and now, in order to have really felt the difference between the disconnect and the connect, We go into that Shabbat. We have that transitional period of lighting the candles where we light everything up. We see things clearly. All the things that we thought that we had seen clearly all throughout the week, we now light the match and we see the light. We understand that there was a disconnect. Now there's this connection, and that's how we enter into the whole idea of Shabbat. So essentially, the very expression of keeping Shabbat is Kedusha, is entering into a state where we are totally, absolutely connected with Hashem, with no distractions, and there's a warm sense of affection on that coming togetherness. And that's what Shabbat is all about. That's the power of affection. That is the power of Kedusha, and that is the power of Shabbat. So let's make it a wonderful Shabbat filled with Kedusha, Tahara, and Chiba. Chiba, which is affection. Have a great Shabbat.